All right, well, let's go ahead to some calls. And we're going to start with Stephen in Georgia.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hi, Stephen.
Hi, pretty good. How are you?
Russell, and what's the other guy's name? I'm sorry.
John.
Oh, okay. How's it going, John?
Good.
What I wanted to discuss, does it have to be about the Beatles, by the way, or could it be something different?
No, anything.
Okay.
No, that's pretty special interest.
Okay, well, what I wanted to discuss was, because, I mean, I'm not speaking for all atheists, but for, like, Matt Dillahunty, for example, he said in a few years, and I don't know if his mind's changed, but what he said was, if he was shown proof that the Christian God exists, he wouldn't worship. So, what I'm wondering is, trying to get other people to convince you with matter.
You're breaking up a little bit. I think you're asking, well, no, try again.
Okay.
Sort of?
You're a little choppy, but go ahead.
Okay. What I'm kind of wondering is, from atheists I've heard, have said that even if they were shown proof that the Christian God or any exists, they wouldn't worship him.
Right.
If they heard, even if it could be proved that God exists, they wouldn't necessarily worship him.
That's what I'm saying. So what's really
Okay.
the point? I'm thinking, if it wouldn't really...
Well, I mean, like, there are lots of people and things that I believe exist, but I don't worship. So, I mean, I think the point there is that the question of whether the thing exists or not, and the question of whether that thing is something that's worthy of worship, are two separate questions.
So
there are people who worship cult leaders, and we believe that the cult leaders exist, but we don't worship them. So you see the difference.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But at least they'd be justified in believing.
Yeah. I mean, if there were solid foundation for God's existence, then we would not object to believing in the God.
Well, to me, God exists because he's revealed himself to me. I know that probably wouldn't work for you, but he really
Right.
has revealed himself to me. And I've seen things that I can't. God has spoken to me.
Okay.
There are times.
Do you have a guess about why God decided not to speak to us? Or would you say God speaks to you all the time, you just don't notice?
Well, that I have a very limited understanding of that. I don't know why God chooses to, intervene. I don't know. If I had to guess, it's because, and I'm not judging you guys or anything, but when you're not seeking, you won't find.
So do you think that if we had heard the same thing, that we could have heard and experienced the same things you did and still not think it was God? Or do you think that the communication you got from God was so compelling that it would be obvious even to a bunch of jaded sinners like us?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
I'm trying to tell, so you say God's communicated with you.
Yes.
Do you think that he's communicated with you more than us? Do you think that if we experience the same things that you did, then it would be obvious to us?
I believe so. I don't know. I don't know how soft your heart is or anything. So.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, John, for instance, is right here. When John says hi to me, I don't look for a bunch of you don't have to look into my heart to ask if it's convincing that John's real. There seems to be sort of a different quality of knowing something exists or not. Like if I said, okay, you've never met my mother.
Right.
But if you saw my mother, I'm very sure you would agree that my mother exists.
Right.
I wouldn't sit here saying, well, I haven't looked into your heart. I don't know whether you're capable of understanding my mother. It seems like a different kind of existence that we're talking about when it comes to God.
If I can bring this up, you telling me God doesn't exist would kind of be the same thing as me telling you your mother doesn't exist. I mean, you know your mother and love her, I assume, and I know God and love God.
All right, so are you saying that if I had seen the same things you had, then I would definitely agree that God exists?
That's not something I don't know the answer.
Huh. Weird. Anyway. So, any other questions?
Yeah, one more quick thing, and then I know you guys got other callers and everything, but I just wanted to ask real quick: do you guys, is morality objective or subjective? I can never get a direct answer.
I think it's difficult to answer because it's kind of a complicated problem of philosophy. Although I think if Matt were sitting in this chair, he would just say, yeah, it's objective. But
right.
I think what a lot of atheists would say in general is that it's not objective in the sense that that there's one guy who decides for everybody what's right and wrong, but it is objective in the sense that that there is definitely a way of measuring whether people's lives get better or worse based on particular actions that you take.
Okay, well,
and that and that as far as you can measure the effect that your actions have, it is objectively true that some actions are better than others.
Okay, but guys like the president of the American Atheist, David Silverman, would actually disagree with that. He believes that it's all subjective.
Okay. I don't think I agree with David Silverman if that's what he's saying, but I think that if we had a more nuanced conversation, we'd probably agree on a lot of other stuff.
Did you happen to see that debate between him and Frank Turek?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, because in that debate, he said it's all subjective. He was saying people are being immoral, so who are they to say that, one group's right, and who is someone else? For example, let's say you have Mother Teresa on one side and you have Hitler on the other side. They both believe they're doing good. Who's right, and how do we determine that if it's just subjective?
Okay. Let me ask you something.
Right. Okay.
Do you believe the story of God showing up and telling Abraham to kill his son?
Yes, and he was testing him.
Okay, but isn't the point of that story in the end that it's a good idea to be willing to kill your son if you think God's telling you to?
Okay, God makes the universe, God makes the rules.
Okay, so would you be cool with God showing up and telling you, do you have a son, by the way?
No, I'm only 19, I don't have any kids yet.
All right, would you be cool with God showing up and telling you to kill your father?
I can't answer that question. As Ray Comfort said, that's not even something worth answering.
Well, but it was worth the Bible going into, wasn't it?
Well, what if I disobey though, and now I'm in big trouble afterwards?
Well, yeah. But doesn't that bother you? And isn't there more that you evaluate morality by than just? Yeah. If this lesson of the Bible was correct, I would think that the question of whether to kill your father or not wouldn't even be a question. It would just be, God said it, I believe it, no problem.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. Okay, let's assume right now when God made the world, he said, this is my standard of right and wrong, before he even created humans or anything, okay? And he does that. Who are we as humans, with a very, very limited understanding to tell the all-powerful, all-knowing creator he is wrong?
Well, I don't know. Could God, when the world was created, maybe have flipped around everything we understand as conventional morality? So God could have said, rape is always right. Great. Thumbs up for God. Kill as much as possible. Theft is the best thing ever. Do you think that God could have made that decision at the beginning of the world?
What, that stuff's good? You mean like stealing and rape and all that?
Yeah.
God could do whatever he wants, I guess.
So isn't that pretty subjective when it comes to morality? Isn't that just some guy's whim, basically?
Well, if most people, I mean, would agree, I mean, not everybody, you know, there's people with conditions and whatnot, that most of them believe that, you know, murder and stealing and rape and all that, most of them agree it's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't even have to really be taught that it's, you know, when I was 5 years old, I never had to be taught that stealing was wrong. It was kind of, I just knew.
All right. So maybe those things are actually wrong for some deeper, more important reason than just God flipping a coin, let's say, at the beginning of the universe and deciding, okay, this time around, killing is wrong. I mean, maybe somebody doesn't just set the rules. Somebody doesn't just make the decision that something is right or wrong. Maybe it has more to do with its actual consequences and not with a decision that somebody has to make.
All right, well, I actually have to get going soon, but just one more thing that I wanted to say before. All right, you guys are in Texas. I was just wondering, do you guys like meeting like non-hateful Christians and stuff?
Oh yeah,
Sure.
I mean, I hang out with Christians.
Like that, you know, because I actually said to Matt when I was on the show the first time, I'm like, I don't know if you happen to see this, but I said, you want to go to Dairy Queen and have a blizzard?
Well, Dairy Queen wouldn't be my first choice, but I'd go to a nice barbecue place with you.
All right, yeah, I mean, like, you know, just somewhere to sit down and talk. I mean, I care about you guys. I mean, I know I don't know you guys, but I really do care.
All right, well, that's sweet.
We appreciate that.
All right, well,
If you get a chance to look up Euthyphro dilemma, because that goes into that really well. Is something wrong because God says it's wrong, or is there something else to it? And I know you have to run, but it's an interesting question. And Matt did a whole lecture on it, but it's worth thinking about these things. You know, what does it mean for something to be wrong, and what's your standard?
All right, well, I appreciate you guys taking my call.
All right, thanks for calling, Stephen. Look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Thanks,
All right,
Stephen.
thank you.